extended into Tyrrell County. What was the expiration time on that?
That one was at 6:45 p.m.
Okay, 6:45. And then, now that was we had one that was in effect for 6:15 and then the new one that just came out for 6:45. There are two, looks like two, and we got one for 7. Is that right? You said there was, the newest one is for 7.
Yes, and
Okay.
they just added that they are tracking 3 separate areas, or couplets rather.
Yep.
And that is why they have those tornado warnings
Yep.
issued like that.
And that lines up with what we were just talking about. There are different zones here that are breaking out. This is the newest one right in here that we're watching. I'm curious to see what is looking like on the sweeping radar out of this with storm relative velocity. Yep, right there. You can see some green and red right down here. Again, this is a new zone of development. Let me focus on it because it looks pretty healthy at the moment. And I'm going to attempt to loop this maybe for the past hour just to get an idea for how it's moving. And that's a fast moving image there. So let me back it up right there. Yeah, really coming into its own in the last image or so right here. And that most recent warning, thank you very much, David Baxley coming in here. Let's see. Says, just talk to the fire department in person. Let's see. They're saying they've got no major reports of issues or damage. As far as trees being down, they received a call around 5:14, some branches down. Let's see, no major tree down issues or anything like that. Now, this location, this was from Davis Supis, who is actually up in Williamston right now, or has been up in Williamston, kind of looking around to see what they are receiving up there. So we do have teams out kind of driving around, seeing exactly what we have in different locations. This particular cell that we are tracking now near the Martin and also Beaufort County line, again, this is the new development here, and I want to tighten up this view even more. So this is going to be closing in on 32, and it's probably going to be passing in between Terracea and Hoke, riding right along the Washington and Beaufort County line and crossing right over 32. And it is generally moving to the east. So if it holds together, it's going to be near Swindell. That's over in Beaufort County. And then maybe over towards Pike Road and Pungo, over towards, let's see here, let me widen out the view just a little bit. We're talking essentially northern end of Beaufort County and extreme northwestern Hyde County, if that part of the cell holds together. This is what we're tracking. It's moving this way. This is the Beaufort-Hyde County border right here. And again, those specific locations that could be affected by that part of the storm, maybe Pike Road, Pungo, probably going to pass north of Terracea, Wilkinson. So there are, whenever you have a cluster of thunderstorms like this, you wind up with so many little different boundaries all coming together, and you wind up with different areas of development. And so what we're actually looking at is not just one tornadic cell. We're looking at 2 or 3 different little zones and pockets of possible spin and rotation. That's why that tornado warned area is such a large geographic location, from Tyrrell County, Washington County, over into northern Beaufort County, and also parts of Hyde County too. So a lot going on with that complex of storms. Now, briefly, I don't want to leave out folks who are under the severe thunderstorm warnings, because you have your own issues you're going to have to deal with. So here it is, this orange zone here that I'm outlining, that's the severe thunderstorm warnings that are currently in effect. It does include Chowan, Perquimans, Pasquotank, Camden, Currituck counties on up towards Gates County, even as far south as Hyde County. But it's this little zone in here that has the greatest circulation potential. And of these zones of circulation, this one right here near the intersection of Martin, Washington, and Beaufort County by far has the best looking of the signatures that we're seeing here. So let's focus on that for a little bit. I'm going to turn this off, turn this on. Let's see what we've got right in here. And storm relative still got a little bit showing up right in this zone here. And notice how it lines up with where our little shear spikes are. And all of this is working its way to the east. So if you're watching us anywhere in northern Beaufort County, north of Pantego, near 45, right along the border of Washington and Beaufort counties. So right along, this cell basically is going to be tracking along the Beaufort-Washington County line. That's probably the most efficient way to say how it's moving here. So it's going to be tracking on the Beaufort and Washington County line. Here it is, and it's moving to the east, and will eventually cross over perhaps into parts of Tyrrell County. Now, excuse me, up the road a ways from that, we still have some spikes in the shear showing up way up here in northern Tyrrell County. Some of this is left over from the cell we were tracking in Martin County earlier today. So again, a little bit of a splitting and branching going here. That's now in the process of working its way out across Albemarle Sound, where we still have special marine warnings in effect. Water spouts could be a possibility out of any of these cells here. So very dangerous for boaters right now. In addition, obviously, to torrential downpours of rain, and that will greatly reduce visibility. And all of this is being fueled by several different things today. We've had a lot of heat. We've had a lot of instability being built up by that heat. And I keep emphasizing here, we still don't want to drop our guard in our southern counties. I know most of the show appears to be the northeastern counties. And indeed, that's where the higher instability was earlier today. But these southern counties, they still have a lot of untapped potential. And our main final trailing cold front that will finally help to stabilize things later tonight has not yet all the way made it through. And if you look close, just in the past few minutes, you see a little bit of development, little popcorn variety thunderstorms popping up across Bladen County, getting close to southern Duplin County. Would not be impossible to see additional thunderstorms flare up on the southern end of that line before the night is out. But obviously our greatest potential and focus at this particular moment is for these northeastern counties over around Martin County and Beaufort County, Washington County, and Tyrrell County. And Holly, this afternoon as we've been tracking these storms, there have been so many individual threats within the storms. It's not just one thing we're tracking. There are many things people have to watch out for in these storms today.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. You got to watch out for debris whenever you're driving. You have to watch out for the wind and being by windows. Also, too, if you're going to be along the coast, definitely watch out. At least in the Albemarle Sound, you definitely need to watch out as well. They do have a marine warning. And even from the chat, a viewer has even sent in a report of a tornado at Beaufort and Martin County line. She was watching it from her house at 16272, Highway 32. They are unsure if it's still on the ground, but there has been a report of a tornado in the Beaufort and Martin County line. Okay,
so that's some report that we're seeing come in through chat. Of course, we'll have to work to confirm some of that to see what is going on there. Well, I've got this note in from our news director. David just handed it to me. A report from the Plymouth mayor, Brian Roth. He reports, thankfully, no weather-related issues that he knows about as of 6:30. Remember, that circulation was passing close to there, but he is checking around with city crews and will let us know if anything develops. So that's good news for the time being, but we are still digging around. I want to go back to that storm report map because these are the unofficial storm reports that we have coming in across eastern North Carolina. These require confirmation, but I do think they're worthy at least to look at here. Everywhere you see an icon has been a report of some type of wind damage. Most of what these are in the form of some large trees that have been blown down, including Williamston over in Martin County earlier today, up around Halifax County earlier today, trees and power lines down on Downing Drive. And our crews were telling us about a lot of power outages that have been reported at one time or another, partially maybe due to some of the lightning. Some of the storms had a lot of lightning earlier, but also partially due, I'm sure, to the strong winds we've had move through. Holly, I hear that alarm go off. I just want to throw it over to you. What do you have coming in over there?
This is out of the Raleigh. This is out of the Raleigh chat here. It says that the NWS Raleigh, North Carolina, cancels the tornado watch for Cumberland County, Edgecombe County, Franklin County, Granville County, Halifax County, Harnett County, Hoke, Johnston, Nash, Sampson, Scotland, Vance, Wake, Warren, Wayne, and Wilson County.
Okay, thank you very much for that update, Holly. And that is showing you how the cold front itself will bring a stabilizing influence. And once we get this initial batch of severe weather out of here, these western counties, like over towards Wayne County and Halifax County, counties that were hit hard earlier today, they are now seeing their severe weather threat start to diminish a little bit because they've been worked over, number one. That's taken some of the available instability, but also the somewhat more tranquil weather behind an advancing cold front is finally beginning to work its way eastward. So it's mainly counties east of that boundary now that are seeing the greatest potential for strong and severe thunderstorms. So again, things will improve as we head deeper into the night, but we still have our own issues to deal with outside at the moment for sure. You can see on the local radar imagery at the moment that we have severe thunderstorm warnings covering several counties, but the tornado warned area is the one we're most concerned about, and that's the one where we're going to spend most of our time. Remember, it's not just one cluster of possible rotation that we're watching. Several have been branching out, but of all of these, it's this one right here that looks the most healthy at the moment, near the southwestern corner of Washington County, and it'll be basically traveling right along the Beaufort and Hyde County lines. Let me reorient that map a little bit. You can see, for point of reference, here is Belhaven. There's Gumneck way over in Tyrrell County. There's Lake Landing down in Hyde County. We're going to do a little bit of storm analysis here. I'm going to turn this off, go into the more updated radar display, and let's see what we've got on our storm relative velocity right there. You see the green and the red? That's a good looking little couplet there. Remember, this is color coded based on wind direction. So whenever you have red and green in close proximity, that means you have two differing zones of wind direction, possible rotation. And if I were to turn this off, I would bet it lines up with our shear, and it does. There's a little bulb of shear right there. Those two products update at different times, so they won't always be exactly aligned, but they are certainly within the general ballpark there. And it looks like it may have tightened up even a little bit. That's a new scan that just came in. And let me get down here again. It's what we were saying a while ago. Probably the easiest way to describe this is this cell. Let me back it up a few minutes, and that way you can see more clearly how it moves. Now keep your eye right here near the tip of my mouse pointer. See where I'm moving that? Keep it right there, and I'm going to move this forward. You see that little area there? How it tightens up a little bit? Right in there. This is essentially traveling right along the border of Beaufort and Washington County, and will continue moving east parallel that border and cross over, and then it'll be moving along the border of Washington and Hyde County. And so the core of this circulation is going to pass north of Belhaven. But if you have any interest at all over in northern Hyde County or eventually Tyrrell County, you're going to want to keep a close eye on that storm as it works its way through. Now I'm hearing on my phone right here, let's see what this is. Now this looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning. This is in effect for Dare County and Tyrrell County. So let's go back out to the wide view. We're getting to the point where now we can just sum up by saying if you're in northeast North Carolina, you're under something. And I think that's probably just about the most efficient way to do it. Severe thunderstorm warning has now been included across northern Dare County. That does extend north and east along the Outer Banks out towards Kill Devil Hills. So basically all of northeastern North Carolina, from Washington north and east, is under either a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning at this particular time, and the cells are indeed moving off to the east. Holly, do you have the text on that most recent severe thunderstorm warning? I'll let you read that right quick, and so we can get the exact details from the Weather Service on the warning, severe thunderstorm warning issued for Dare County.
Yes, so that issued for Dare County as well as in Tyrrell County, and that thunderstorm warning will be in effect until 7:30. They've also just canceled in the chat the tornado warning for Martin County. That was fresh out of the chat. And then we are still having the tornado warning that continues for Beaufort County along with Hyde County and Washington County until 7 o'clock p.m. It is moving now east at about 30 miles per hour instead of 50 miles per hour. So it looks like things are starting to weaken just a little bit.
Thank you, Holly, for that. And that makes perfect sense what you say about Martin County. Let me turn off the radar just for a second. I just want to turn it off and just look solely at the polygons that are up there. Let me turn off the shear too, just to sort out what is in effect, because there's lines going everywhere on this map. So let me widen out the view again.
Tornado watch has been canceled.
Okay, for which county specifically?
I believe for at least near Raleigh. That's
Okay,
from
yeah,
out of the Raleigh
that's
chat.
Raleigh area. Okay, and that makes sense. They're starting to stabilize there. So a tornado watch is still in effect for most of eastern North Carolina. And part of that is what you see with this yellow line here. These orange lines, the orange borders, those are counties that are under severe thunderstorm warnings. The red borders here, those are our tornado warnings. And even though there have been several different little pockets of circulation, by far the one that is the best defined is this one right along the Washington, Beaufort, and Hyde County border. So if I turn the radar imagery back on, then you can see what I'm talking about. So let's come in and take a little bit of a tour here. And now I'm going to turn off the warnings. Let's turn off the severe overlay so we can look solely at the radar display. And I'm going to come to storm relative velocity mode. And here is the zone that we're watching right here. It's where you see the green and the red, close proximity one to another. Another update from our news director. And let's see. Ooh, this is an interesting report. Our news director, David, just handed me this. WNCT, we called Washington County Emergency Management Coordinator Lance Swindell. He says that a person did indeed report a funnel cloud near Washington and Beaufort County. Is this the report you were referring to a while ago, Holly?
Yes.
I believe so. So he says person did indeed report a funnel cloud near the Washington and Beaufort County line near Longwidge Road a very short time ago. Emergency management has not confirmed that yet, but that's a source that we have there, and that lines up with what Holly was saying. And again, that was a report of a possible funnel cloud near the Washington-Beaufort County line. Yes, Holly.
And then the chat just wrote in here that the tornado warning expires for Tyrrell and Washington County at 6:45 p.m.
Okay, and that's for the northern end. I assume that that's the one that we were tracking up around what was left of the original cell coming out of Martin County. So the one that was up in this area here has expired. Okay, yeah. So the one that you see up here, remember we were tracking two little areas of flow. See how we don't really have anything of interest up here now? So the tornado potential in this zone from Skinnersville to Columbia essentially has lessened a lot. But this is still holding its own right now. And Holly, I know you've got a half a thousand different warnings over there. It's hard to sort through them all, but do you happen to know what the expiration time is on the one that is still in effect for Beaufort County at the moment?
That one is still going to be until 7 o'clock p.m. They haven't updated it to make it its own warning yet, but they just wrote in here that the other ones expire at 6:45. So I'm assuming they'll have another one specifically for Beaufort County, but as of now, it doesn't expire until 7 o'clock p.m.
Perfect, and that makes sense based on what we're seeing. This is the one she's talking about right here, because this is the one that still has the best signature. And if we look at the shear and the shear track, well, let's don't do the shear track. Let's do shear. See how we still have a little shear lining up in the same spot with where we're seeing this difference in coloration. And if we loop this over the past hour, you can see how it's moving. See how it's moving east? So it's traveling, again, right along the Washington-Beaufort County line, getting set to cross over into Hyde County. And we'll be eventually traveling along the Hyde and Tyrrell County line, kind of in the left side of the T here, if you will. So this is the zone that we're watching here, and this is the rotational signature that is still well defined. And the other rotational signatures that we were tracking farther north in Washington and Tyrrell, leftovers of the earlier warnings, those have lost essentially their definition. So this is really our main player that we're tracking for tornado tendencies at the moment. This is crossing over, will eventually be crossing north of Pantego. So if you're watching us from Pantego and Belhaven, to give you a little bit of good news here, it does look like the core of that circulation is probably on a trajectory to bypass you to the north. But if you're anywhere near the border of Washington and Beaufort County, or Washington and Hyde County, or eventually Tyrrell and Hyde County, right along the borders there intersecting, you need to watch the progress of this storm closely. Here's the wide view, and again, you can see how the zone of the red tornado warning has now been basically stripped down and relegated to areas right along that border of Washington, Beaufort, and also Hyde County. There are still severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for northern Tyrrell County, northern Dare County, along the Outer Banks up towards Kill Devil Hills, also portions of Perquimans and Pasquotank, Camden, and Currituck counties. That does include Elizabeth City. You're under severe thunderstorm warnings up there. Holly, I'll turn it over to you just a second. I hear that alarm going off again. Is that an update out of our office, or is that another? Hang on a second. I see it on my phone, too. Holly, go right ahead if you have anything. If not, I can read it straight from my phone.
That's from the Wakefield office in Virginia. They have a tornado warning now for Camden County, Currituck County, and Pasquotank County.
Thank you very much. And that's why we've been going back to the severe thunderstorm warnings there, because we knew that potential would be there for them to intensify. And you can see now lighting up what Holly was just talking about. See the new red shaded area up here for those counties, Camden, Currituck, Pasquotank counties. They are now under tornado warnings there too. So let's go back to the Storm Lab 9 radar and let's take a look at all of these locations. So there's two main tornadic locations, hot spots, if you will, that we're looking at. One is here near Washington and Beaufort County. It's contained within the red polygon that you see here. If we go into sweeping radar mode, then we'll see what the signature looks like. And it's still very well defined. There it is. And it also lines up on top of where we're seeing the shear, okay? That's one area of rotation. It's moving east along the Beaufort, Washington County line and will eventually be crossing into northern Hyde County and eventually over into Tyrrell County. This is Hyde County right here. This is Tyrrell County over here. So that's one zone. Now let's go up the road to our other tornado warned cell. And I'm going to switch back over to sweeping radar mode up here. And let's see, hang on a second, let's turn the severe overlays back on. So this is a cluster up here that we're tracking. Let's see if we have any wind shear to speak of up here. A little bit, but that signature is not nearly as well defined as the other one was, but probably what we're looking at is right back over here would be my guess. That's about the most defined that we have. See that little blip right in here? It's kind of hard to see. But sometimes that's the way tornado signatures are. They are difficult to pick out sometimes. And you see certainly a little wind shift line there updating. It's moving north and east. So if you're watching us from, excuse me, up around Poplar Branch, this core of the storm is going to be getting close to there. It'll cut right across 158 and then sooner rather than later be offshore. Holly, that storm that's out of Wakefield's office, what is the speed of movement on that? I'm curious. It looks like it's moving pretty quick.
It says it's moving east at about 40 miles per hour.
Okay, so it is moving at a pretty good little clip there. So that's the other tornadic warned cell. So again, two areas with tornado tendencies right now. We have this one near Washington, Beaufort County line, and then we have another up around Perquimans, Pasquotank County. This one, the southernmost one, that we have seen at least a report, has not yet been confirmed by emergency management. There was a person who reported a funnel cloud near the Washington and Beaufort County line. And so that is coming from Washington County Emergency Management Coordinator Lance Swindell, and that ties in with the report that Holly was reading a little bit ago from the information coming in through the National Weather Service chat offices. So we know these storms have a history of wind damage already because there have been many reports of wind damage, mostly in the form of large trees, but in some cases power lines too, down, especially up around Halifax County. They were some of the earliest counties to see. Around Scotland Neck, about 5 o'clock this afternoon, trees and power lines were reported down over around that general location. And of course, we've had a lot of wind damage reports across Martin County, a lot of them in the form of large trees that have been down. Been a lot of reports of hail out of these storms today, too. Some of the hailstones have been estimated just by our radar display to be as much as 1 to 2 inches in diameter for some of the larger hailstones. And again, part of the problem We started with severe weather. If you remember, prior to daybreak this morning, we had one batch move through Pitt County, and then the sun came up. That cleared out, but the sun just heated us up, made us unstable. Then we got another round, and then that cleared out, and then we got another round, because in between each round, we just keep breaking back out into sunshine. Like right now on our live I-9 camera in Greenville. It looks perfectly fine outside, other than storm clouds off in the distance and some obvious insects flying around the camera lens there. But it doesn't take long to boost your temperatures right back up. So Greenville has been warming up and cooling down and warming up and cooling down all day as the showers and thunderstorms move in and out. But it is still quite hot in Goldsboro, Kinston, New Bern. And we've been trying to emphasize, I don't want you to drop your guard just yet, even in some of the southern counties, because there's still some untapped instability there until we can get this boundary offshore a little bit later tonight. We don't want to drop our guard altogether. Many of our counties are still under a tornado watch, including Onslow and Carteret County, a little bit closer to the coast. So there's still some potential for additional development until we can start to settle things down a little bit. Here is the current view on our Storm Lab 9 radar. And two zones of development this evening. Two zones of development. We've got one where we have some possible tornadic rotation down near the Washington, Beaufort, and Hyde County line. And it's with this batch right here. That's what we're watching. And then another tornadic cluster is up here, just north of Albemarle Sound in Pasquotank County, cutting on over towards Dare County. We have severe thunderstorm warnings down here, extending across Kill Devil Hill. So anywhere in this cluster, these are bad thunderstorms. You don't want to be near them. This cell here, though, has had some very good signatures associated with it. So let's zoom back in and take a look and see what's going on now with this tornado warning cell right along the Washington and Beaufort County borders. I'm going to go to the most updated radar display that I have, our sweeping radar, and still got a good looking signature there. There it is right there, little couplet, green and red pixels, each indicating a different wind direction and some possible rotation. And I'll bet it lines up with our shear, and indeed it does. There's a little blob of that. So this is still a healthy, well-defined signature traveling right across the Washington and Beaufort County line. That's where it is at the moment. So if you have any interest in northern Hyde County or even in southern Tyrrell County, if it holds together, places west of Gum Neck or extending over towards 94, watch closely, because that line of storms indeed is going to be heading your way too. Up the road, where we have the tornadic cells up around Perquimans and Pasquotank counties, as I zoom in and take a look there, and Camden and Currituck County even. Let's switch over to our sweeping radar mode there. This one's moving at about 45 miles an hour, so it's going to be offshore pretty quick now. It won't be over land or even over local water too much longer. It's hard to pick this one out, but right in here, if you look close, you'll see a little pocket of shear right there, and it's going to be moving up towards Poplar Branch, probably threading right in between Poplar Branch and Southern Shores, and then it'll be out over the water and moving away. We have all kinds of marine warnings that have been issued, and Holly, we spend so much time talking about land, sometimes we neglect to talk about, places like Albemarle Sound or out over the waterways too. We have to keep an eye on those locations as well, and I think you've got a new update coming in there, Holly.
Oh, yeah. So they reissued out the tornado warning now for Beaufort County, Hyde County, Tyrrell County, and Washington County, and that time has been extended to 7:30 p.m. And that is again for Beaufort County, Hyde County, Tyrrell County, and Washington County. That you're under a tornado warning at least until 7:30.
Okay, and again, that makes a lot of sense, because we were looking at that signature. It is still very well defined out there, the signature. Holly, have you got some pictures there? Let's see what you're looking at there. I tell you what, Holly, why don't you, if you want to step away, do whatever you have to do, and coordinate with the newsroom, let them know about these pictures. If there's some way that they can, you can get that to them or whatever. I don't know how they would want to handle it, but those are some interesting pictures there. It might be something we could show at some point in time. Let's take a look while we've got this and let's see here. We've got, and Holly, the best way to do it, if you want to just send those pictures and let them know where they came from, because I don't know how we'll be able to pull them off that source, but I'll leave you to that.
Okay.
And let's take a look at the local radar imagery here. Now, what Holly was just telling us is basically an extension eastward of that same tornado warning. So it's not as if something really has changed that much. It's just that the storm is still holding together. So let me slide the map over, and this is the cell that we're talking about right here. This is a tornado warning, and I'm going to draw this in for you. So you see the new tornado box. Here's the original tornado box, and it's for this cell right here. And with the sweeping radar, we're going to flip over, and you still see bright green and bright red, two different wind directions. That's the possible rotation. See how it lines up with the shear pocket behind it? And remember, the shear product and the other product don't update at the same time. That's why one appears always perhaps to be a little behind the other, but it's right in this zone here, and it is moving eastward with time. So it's going to be tracking along the northern border of Hyde County. It will clip across the extreme southern portion of Tyrrell, right in the tip of the T there. And then if it continues to hold together, it may eventually cross over into Dare County. But right now, it's the intersection of Washington County and Beaufort County and Hyde County and Tyrrell County where this tornado warning does reside. And again, all of this is moving to the east. If you're watching this from Gum Neck, you need to keep an eye on it too if it manages to hold together. But it still has an impressive looking signature at the moment. There has been a history of some possible funnel cloud sightings reported with this. Earlier, our station contacted Emergency Management Coordinator Lance Swindell. He was reporting that he had received a report of a funnel cloud near Washington and Beaufort County line near Long Ridge Road. Now, that's been a little while ago now. But this is from this same cell. And that has not been confirmed by emergency management, though, but there have been at least some possible funnel sightings associated with it. And it would make sense that there would be, because this is a very good-looking radar signature, at least by Eastern North Carolina standards. Sometimes we don't have the classic hook echoes and signatures that you would sometimes see in big Midwest tornadoes. Let me go back to a larger view. And excuse me there, just cleared the throat a little bit. You have to do that after 2 or 3 hours. And let's see the wide view and the history track. And the good news is, even though it is still quite hot in our southern counties, we have not seen any new development down towards Onslow County or Carteret County. So that's good news. Don't want to drop our guard here. But so far, it looks like this is the main player in town. And these storms are moving about 45, 50 miles an hour. So it's not going to be too much longer before they're off the coast altogether. So hopefully once that batch gets through, it will take some of the fire out of the atmosphere, because certainly these northern counties have been worked over pretty good at this point. But let's go into our storm damage reports. And excuse me, because I hear that alarm going off again. So let me come and see what this is. Let's see. Let's see. I want to make sure of what I'm doing. It looks like Morehead City is, let's see, have they canceled? Let's see what they've got. It looks like they're in the process of replacing one warning for another there. So let's see. Tyrrell, severe thunderstorm probably upgraded to a tornado. Okay, I see what they're doing here. Yeah, okay, that they're basically just replacing one warning with another, it looks like. So we still have an ongoing tornado warning, which makes sense now. So let me pop that back up and load again. Is what we've got. And again, forgive us for having to step away, but if you imagine across these 29 counties, literally, we are tracking new data coming in from 3 different National Weather Service offices, one out of Wakefield, one out of Raleigh, and one out of Morehead City. And there are multiple warnings across multiple counties for multiple cells. So there's a lot of overlap in between all the data that comes out. So whenever we say something, we like to take that extra minute just to sift through it and make sure that indeed what we're telling you is indeed correct. So let's do a little bit of a review here. I know a lot of folks are coming in for the very first time. Maybe you're just getting in from work or whatever the case may be, and you don't entirely know what is going on. Let's bring you up to speed. We have a tornado watch that remains in effect now, mainly for our extreme eastern coastal counties. That's where most of the tornado watch is in effect at this particular time. We have many counties under severe thunderstorm warnings, which would be the orange counties that you see. In fact, I'm going to turn off the radar just for a second so we can see this more clearly. Thank you again. And as you're looking at that, this is a report. I'm just going to read it straight off the paper from our news director. Robertsonville Mayor Tina Brown in Martin County reports no issues, no significant issues. That's good, but she does report power outages toward Williamston along Highway 64. Also, WNCT's David Supas is checking out storm damage. He reports there is a large tree down on Ballard Road northwest of Williamston, and he hopes to have some video available for that fairly soon. And again, that's a confirmation of some of those storm reports we were looking at on the storm report map a little bit ago. So thank you to our news director, David, for getting that to us. Now, back to the map here. The orange counties that you see, those are the counties that are under severe thunderstorm warnings. It does include Dare County, northeastern Tyrrell County, and Ocraquemines, Pasquotank, Camden, Currituck. Our 2 tornado warnings are the red polygons that you see here and here. And of these 2, this one has had the best looking signature. So let's flip down here. This tornado warning continues within these locations here, right along the intersection of Hyde and southern Washington and Tyrrell and Beaufort counties. Now let's turn on the radar since we're zoomed in. Still got a lot of heavy rain with that cell. If we go into our storm relative velocity mode, the signature in this last scan may be not quite as well defined as it once was, but it is still there nonetheless. And Holly, if you would just very quickly, please, maybe in another tab right up here, just open up a new tab and go over to National Weather Service, their actual website. And I just wanted to look at their polygons that they have up there too, making sure that because we are still showing this one in effect, and indeed I believe it to be. There's enough of a signature here that it should, but I just wanted to make sure there because we have so much overlap that is going on at this particular time. Also, this is still lining up with a good little shear pocket right here. Doesn't look as healthy as it did, but it's still there. This warning is set to expire at 7:15, I believe, is the warning expiration time on that. You ought to be able to click on there and see just to be sure, but I think 7:15 was the expiration time. So we're going to stay on the air live with this until this warning is expired, and then we will. Yes, I'm sorry, it's 7:30. 7:30, okay. So that one is in effect until 7:30. It is moving eastward and will eventually cross over into southern Tyrrell County over here. So this is the best looking potential tornadic signature that we have. This is also the one that was associated with the report of the funnel cloud near Washington and Beaufort County line. That's been some time ago now that was reported, probably an hour or so, give or take a little bit. And as we check in on damage throughout the state, let me go back to that damage. Well, forgive me, I keep hitting the wrong button. There we go. Damage report across the state. These little icons represent all of the different wind damage reports and hail reports that have been received so far. Very recently, our news director handed this report in to me that Robertsonville Mayor Tina Brown in Martin County reported a lot of power outages toward Williamston along Highway 64, and also our own Davis Supas is checking out storm damage. He reports a large tree down on Ballard Road northwest of Williamston, and he hopes to have some video of that soon. So again, all of these different reports that you have coming in showing just how much wind potential we've had. And take a look at the generalized wind gusts even outside of where the severe weather is. We're gusting 20, 30 miles an hour common, and there's not even any severe thunderstorm activity in Beaufort and Goldsboro at the moment. So it's been an impressive day of wind, and with such gusty winds at the surface, it does not take much of a strong cell at all to channel down even stronger winds aloft to the surface. And you can see our trailing cold front is now beginning to make better progress across the state. And later tonight, that cold front is going to be pushing offshore. Once it does so, that will greatly decrease the coverage, at least, of severe weather potential, although that boundary may hang out close enough to the coast to provide at least some chance for strong thunderstorms occasionally during the day on Tuesday. But again, I think the coverage tomorrow will be much, much less impressive than what we're seeing, obviously, out there today. To recap and reset a little bit, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning covering several counties. It does include Camden and Currituck County, Dare County, which also picks up out towards Kill Devil Hills along the Outer Banks. Tyrrell County, also under a severe thunderstorm warning. We have 2 zones under tornado warnings, one right up here. This cell, though, is just about ready to push offshore. This cell is still ongoing near the intersection of Washington, Beaufort, Hyde, and Tyrrell counties. That's where we're going to zoom in and take a look and do a little storm analysis there, as it is probably the strongest game in town, so to speak, at this particular point. So here it is. This is the red polygon for the tornado warning. The storm is generally moving east. If you have any interest over near Gum Neck, it could eventually head that way and then maybe hold together and cut across portions of Dare County. If we turn on the sweeping radar mode and go into storm relative velocity. Let's see here. Let's turn that off. I want to reorient this and get on a much better view than what we're doing now. Got the wrong one up there. Let's pull that there. And bear with us just a second. And here we go. Storm relative velocity. So right here, all the red and green, the bright pixels close to each other, that's the zone of possible rotation. It is moving to the east. We'll probably pass south of Gum Neck, probably in between Gum Neck and Lake Landing. And if it holds together, we'll eventually cut over across southern Dare County too. It's really about the only cell at the moment that is exhibiting a good, strong rotational signature. And that's why the National Weather Service is continuing with that warning for a little while longer, at least until 7:30. And Holly, the tornado signatures, those are not the only issues we've had today. There have been many hazards associated with these cells.
Oh yeah, most definitely. You do have the tornado potential out there. You have the wind damage out there as well. And even too, don't forget, with the amount of rain that we've been receiving, there could even be a possibility for some flash flooding out there as well, just depending on where exactly you'll be driving. So definitely just take precautions in that aspect. Now, we also too just had something come to the chat. They have canceled the tornado warning for Beaufort County, but they will continue the tornado warning for Hyde County, Tyrrell County, and Washington County. And that time that will still be in effect until 7:30 p.m. for today. And again, that is the tornado warning will continue now for Hyde County, Tyrrell County, and Washington County until 7:30 p.m.
And that lines up perfectly with what we're seeing here on the map too. You can see Beaufort County, which was under that tornado warning, is now pretty much in the clear from this cell. This is the cell still ongoing, and for Washington County, northern Hyde County, and parts of Tyrrell County, still in effect. The cutoff line for this would be 7:30, which is about 20 minutes or so from now. And if we go back in and look at the sweeping radar, you can clearly see that this still has, some signature. It doesn't look quite as tight as it did a few minutes ago, but still enough there. And also still seeing a little blip of shear over here. Even that does not look nearly as impressive as it did. It's been a little while since we checked in on some of the hail tendencies. I'm curious to see if any of those are there. Now, let me turn this off and back up. This goes back about 6 o'clock or so. And I want you to look at how bright the hail signature is over here. Shows up really well. And then as it works its way to the east, watch what happens. It really flares up there. And then as it continues east, it's kind of losing some of that. Now, remember, our water temperature is still a little cool. We've warmed up along the water a lot, but there could be a little bit of a stabilizing influence as this line gets closer to the coast. We'll see. But hopefully that is a sign of a little bit of a weakening, at least for this particular cell. And even that tornadic signature, or that little couplet we were watching, does not look quite as tight. But you can still see some broad evidence there. And our National Weather Service, rightfully so, erring on the side of caution for the most part. And that's something that we always like to do. And Holly, you know, we were talking about the speed in which some of these storms were moving earlier today. Some of them are moving very, very fast. And, you know, that's one thing people need to be aware of. Don't try to outrun it.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Don't try to outrun the storm, because it definitely could at least catch up to you, or at least move faster than you. You could be caught up to the storm, and that's not going to be safe. Now, as far as right now with these tornado warnings, earlier today the storms were moving east at about 20 miles per hour. Then as we got a little bit later on, around that 6 o'clock hour, those storms, that speed started to increase to about 50 miles per hour. And now those storms are starting to calm down a little bit, still moving at a quite steady speed, moving east at about 30 miles per hour.
Exactly, Holly. And, you know, we were talking about the cells today. We've had a lot of reports of power outages with these cells moving through. We've also had some wind damage reports out of some of these cells, too, and even some possible funnel cloud sightings out of some of these storms. A little while ago, we checked in with the Washington County Emergency Management Coordinator, Lance Swindell, and he was reporting that, he had seen or heard a report from a local person that a funnel cloud had been spotted near the Washington and Beaufort County line. That's when the storm was really getting its act together, probably a little over an hour or so ago. We also checked in with Robertsonville Mayor Tina Brown in Martin County, because they saw some of the strong storms earlier today, and she was reporting power outages towards Williamston along Highway 64, and even our own reporting, WNCT's Davis Supis was out and about checking some storm damage. He found some large trees down on Ballard Road northwest of Williamston. And so again, a lot of reports of wind damage with these cells today. The wind field overall has been quite impressive. Now, the big question everyone wonders is, well, when is this mess finally going to clear out of here for good? Well, as we move deeper into the night tonight, we have a final trailing cold front that will come through, and once that front pushes offshore, that's going to mark the end of the more widespread severe weather potential for us. And you see a lot of at least relatively more stable air up the road. There's still some showers and thunder showers ongoing in the western part of the state, but nothing on the order of the intensity we're seeing around here. That main cold front will continue moving eastward, and once we head into daybreak on Tuesday, there may be a leftover shower or maybe a rumble of thunder, but again, we shouldn't see nearly the coverage that we have had to deal with earlier this afternoon. Here in Greenville, our air pressure dropped pretty low this afternoon. It's recovered a little bit at 29.78 inches. We were watching kind of from afar as this most recent batch of severe weather pushed through and left us with a little more sunshine later this afternoon. We had our own batch of severe weather to deal with even before the sun came up this morning on this weather alert day. So it's been an active day. It hasn't rained every single second, but when the thunderstorms have flared up, they have meant business. And part of the problem with that, with these hot temperatures we had, my goodness, it was a muggy day of weather for sure. To give you an idea how muggy it really has been, look at the dew points here in Greenville right now in the mid-70s. That makes it feel extremely uncomfortable. And it's such a hot, moisture-rich environment, well, it's just a good breeding ground for showers and thunderstorms to strengthen, especially if you have any triggers. And we have so many little disturbances and boundaries and fronts that have been affecting North Carolina over the past week or so. It's easy to lose track of where they're all located at this point. So you never know what little bump or collision in the atmosphere is going to spark something new. If you're just watching us, we do have a tornado warning that still is in effect for this cell right along the Hyde and Washington County border, crossing over into Tyrrell County. It is set to expire in about 15 minutes. It is still holding its own, although it has not looked as impressive with its signature as it has. There's definitely been a little bit of a disorganization trend here, I think, with it. You still see some green and red, but it's not nearly as tightly wound or as bright as we were seeing even just a few minutes ago. And even the wind shear is not quite as impressive. To show you what I mean, let me reorient the map here, and I'm going to back up the clock a little bit. Let's go back in time. and to right about here when that circulation was going. And see how it looks fairly healthy right there in that image. And we had brighter pixels showing up in the storm relative velocity. But as we slide this slider bar into motion over time, it kind of loses some of that definition. And it certainly loses some of that shear too as it moves along, just a little blob associated with it. Enough so that the National Weather Service is still maintaining the warning for now. Whether or not they let it run all the way to 7:30, who remains yet to be seen. But again, it doesn't look quite as healthy, as impressive as it has looked earlier in the day. Here's the wide view that helps to see storm movement a little better. We still have a little cluster of severe thunderstorm warnings in effect along our northeastern coastal waters. And Holly, is that an update? I hear something coming in on the chat there. What is that for? Is that for us or is it another office?
It's another office in Virginia. They're canceling the tornado warning for Camden and Currituck County.
Okay, so those two counties being dropped. She's referencing this cell up here just to the east of Elizabeth City, so we'll probably see this polygon come down. And the reason of doing that, quite simply, is because most of the storm is now pushing out over the water. And I guess that's one good piece of news. If you take this map as a whole, the main active cluster that's caused us so many issues today is just about ready to move out over the water anyway. These storms have varied in their forward rate of speed today. Some have been moving as fast as 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. Some has been moving as slow as 20 miles an hour. So they have varied, but bottom line, you should never ever try to outrun one if you've got one moving in. I'm curious to see what our hail tendency is looking like presently in that little cell over across Washington, Tyrrell, and Hyde County. So let's zoom in and take a look at that, because we've had a lot of reports of hail stones in excess of 1 to 1.5 inch in diameter today. And if we switch over to the hail and hail track mode and turn this off and this off, yeah, we still have some hail, but this is the most recent hail image, and notice how it pretty much disappears. So if we widen the view, that's another indication perhaps that that storm is losing a bit of its potential. Notice how about an hour or so ago, see how well defined the hail was here? And now as I put the clock into motion, watch what happens to it. It just kind of fades and fizzles. So this cell is now really losing its definition. So hopefully that warning certainly will be allowed to expire on time, and they may even decide to expire a little bit ahead of time. But we will stay with it since this is in our viewing area until that official warning has been allowed to expire. Remember, these storms are not stagnant things that we are tracking. They are on the move, which is why we continue to stay with them. And over the span of a half hour or 40 minutes of tracking, well, they cover a lot of territory in that length of time. We do continue with the Storm Team 9 weather alert day in effect through tonight, at least until we can get the cold front offshore. Severe thunderstorms and possible tornadoes have already occurred, and that possibility is still there. It's certainly not raining everywhere, though. Here at the moment in Greenville, the sunshine is out, and it has been out for most of the afternoon. We had our own batch of severe weather to deal with, though, earlier today. But my goodness, it has been a muggy and steamy day of weather. 73 is our dew point. Our air temperature is 82. That really worked against us because it made us hot and it made us unstable. All we really needed was a spark to get the thunderstorms going, and we had that in the form of some leftover disturbances and boundaries, and finally a trailing cold front that'll sweep across the area later tonight. Once that cold front gets out of here, it will finally begin to settle things down, hopefully for us, for good overall across the board. So a very active day of weather, to say the least, and we do continue with that tornado warning for a little while longer across parts of our viewing area. Here is the current view of that tornado warned cell, and to keep from having to move this back and forth, I'm just going to save this as a new element right there, and that'll stabilize that. And then I'm going to zoom into this and slide over for the tight view, and we'll save that as a new element too. And then we are going to go in into our sweeping radar mode and look at storm relative velocity here. And again, still a little bit of a spike there showing up. You can definitely see it. And what's something else interesting to note is the direction of movement for this is veering a little bit off to the south and east now. Sometimes that's something you always have to watch out. So more down towards northern and central Hyde County may have to keep a close eye on this too. You can kind of see, if I back it up a little bit, see how in the last couple of frames it veers just a little there. So it's generally moving east, but maybe a little hint of southeast in that overall movement. So we'll continue to monitor. That tornado warning until it officially expires coming up in just about 10 minutes, if not sooner. It does still have a decent looking velocity signature on it, and that does line up at least with some pocket of shear. Now, the storms earlier today that affected Bertie County, they have now cleared out, and indeed there does seem to be a lessening in the, at least in the coverage of active weather that we have out there at the moment. And Holly, if you would just in the National Weather Service chat, if you will type a quick note into them and ask them if they will continue to run this warning. In fact, if you'll go into not the data feed but the other, and send them a quick note and see if they plan to run this until 7:30. It's full expiration time. We're just curious on that. We want to make sure that we have the proper information there. And now let's take a look at our current temperatures, because this has been part of our problem today too, all of this heat and instability that has been building up across eastern North Carolina. And currently our air pressure is still low, although it is starting to recover a little bit in Greenville. Our dew points are also still quite elevated. Storm Team 9 weather alert day will continue until we get this last batch of showers and thunderstorms out of here. But again, not every county getting wet at the moment. There is sunshine to be found, including right here in Greenville too. So again, very active day of weather. Lots of reports of wind damage starting to come in. A lot of it in the form of downed trees, but also some downed power lines, especially up north earlier today across Halifax County. They had reports of large hail and also some downed trees there. Martin County with some reports of trees down. Up north in the road in Hertford County, multiple clusters of power outages between Ahoskie and Cofield. Over 600 Dominion customers without power at one point in time. A lot of lightning with these cells initially. They've been losing some of their lightning tendencies over time. Some of the power outages from earlier today could have been a combination of lightning and also maybe the possibility of the wind bringing down trees and whatnot. We have had crews out and about looking around. Our own David Supas was looking at some trees that were down up around Williamston. He's been driving around. We also checked in earlier this evening with Washington County Emergency Management Coordinator Lance Swindell. He had seen a report unconfirmed by emergency management of someone that had reported a funnel cloud near the Washington and Beaufort County line. That was earlier today as that initial line of storms was moving through. Definitely, though, starting to see perhaps a little bit of a weakening trend now in that cluster of storms near the intersection of Hyde and Tyrrell and Washington counties. It doesn't look nearly as well defined as it did, but still a little bit of a signature showing up. Here's the close-up view on that cell. And you can see the red polygon area here. That's the tornado warning. The orange zone is the severe thunderstorm warning. And this yellow line over here, that's the tornado watch that includes still many of our coastal counties. Here's the tornado warning as we tighten up the view near the intersection of Washington and Hyde and Tyrrell counties. There is still a little bit of a signature showing up there, right in there. And as we take a look at our wind shear on this, curious to see what it looks like, so we will turn off the sweeping radar. The shear not overly impressive, or at least this signature on this particular computer display, but still you can see a little bit of a pocket showing up locally on that zone too. So again, we'll continue to monitor this. The official expiration of that warning is coming up at about 7:30, which is about 7 or 8 minutes from now. Holly, do you have any update?
Yes, they just said currently in the chat that they're going to continue letting the tornado warning run until 7:30, and then they're going to switch the warning to a severe thunderstorm warning.
And I think that makes sense because the cell is beginning to weaken quite a bit. And so they will let this run until 7:30 as a tornado warning. We will stay with it until then for about another 6 minutes or so just to make sure nothing flares up. And then they will be replacing that tornado warning with a severe thunderstorm warning that will continue. And don't drop your guard just because something gets downgraded to a severe thunderstorm warning, because remember, severe thunderstorms are capable of damaging wind gusts in excess of 50 to 60 miles an hour. That can sometimes happen. So again, that is a severe thunderstorm can cause more than enough problems all by itself. Now, our wind field has been very impressive even apart from the thunderstorms today. We've seen some 20, 30 mile per hour wind gusts, and our air pressure dropped pretty low in Greenville as we were watching some of the stronger storms bypass to our north. We had our own round of severe weather just before daybreak this morning, and also another round during the day. But during the afternoon, we've missed out, at least in Greenville, on some some of these stronger thunderstorms. They've been passing by just to our north. It's our northeastern counties that have definitely had the lion's share. At the moment, the only counties remaining under warnings of any kind are Outer Banks, portions of Dare County under severe thunderstorm warning. We also have portions of Camden and Currituck counties under severe thunderstorm warnings. We also have a tornado warning that is in effect across southeastern Washington County, southwestern Tyrrell County, northern Hyde County, a tornado warning in effect still there, and that is the cell we'll be monitoring for about another 3 to 4 minutes, and then hopefully National Weather Service will be allowing that to expire on time. There is the latest view, and now we're starting to see that new severe thunderstorm warning popping up there. And they're probably indeed going to allow that tornado warning to expire coming up in about 3 minutes here. So let's show one more time the storm relative velocity. There it is, bright green, bright red. Still some at least broad rotation in there, enough it's showing up on our velocity mode. And also still some good little pockets of wind shear associated with it there. So it's trying to hold its own, even though it is not as impressive as it was earlier when it was up north closer to Martin County. Bertie County finally beginning to settle down. And even though we're quite hot and unstable in places like New Bern and Beaufort, thankfully we have not seen any storm development yet farther south along that line. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but so far we are in pretty good shape there. Hopefully we'll continue to be, but you already see a few little clusters trying to light up here. We'll watch these because they can very quickly go from this to looking more like this, because this line blew up quickly earlier this afternoon too. So severe thunderstorm warning now being issued for southern Tyrrell County and also Hyde County, and that may be an update. Is that an update out of Morehead City?
Yes, the tornado warning expires for Hyde County, Tyrrell County, and Washington County.
Are they expiring it now, or are they expiring it at 7:30?
It will expire at 7:30, so I have to
Okay.
continue reading.
All right, got you. So that will run just for a few more minutes. They're still seeing a little hint of some rotation there, as we are too. So as a precaution, they're going to keep that running just for a little while longer. But you can clearly see that this signature is not nearly as organized as it was. It's starting to become a little more broad, if you will. You know that you can have a thunderstorm exhibit broad rotation without necessarily having the tightening up of the rotation to generate a true tornado. Any rotating thunderstorm is what we would refer to as a mesocyclone or a supercell thunderstorm. Obviously, when a thunderstorm has a general rotation, then general rotating thunderstorms have a greater potential to drop quick spin-up tornadoes, as some of these cells have earlier today. And as we move deeper into the night tonight, we will begin to get and assess more of the storm damage reports that we have seen throughout the Carolinas throughout the course of the day today. There have been quite a few, and you can see even over towards Nash County, just to the south of Rocky Mount, earlier today, some decent reports of wind. Also some impressive gust across Martin County, enough to down some trees perhaps over around Hamilton. That was about 5 o'clock when the line of storms was coming. Of course, this line originated closer to the Triangle and around Wake County when the storms were first starting to organize in the heat of the day. They had some trees down. So a lot of wind damage history with these cells. We have not heard of any major structural damage up to this point. Hopefully that will continue to be the case, but we will certainly not drop our guard and say that with certainty just yet until we have a chance to find out. We've got about 2 minutes left on this current tornado warn cell. You can see the tornado warn box is still up there right near the intersection of Hyde and Tyrrell County as you begin to approach the T. Gum Neck is already seeing an increase in the rainfall, and you'll start to see an increase in the wind over in that region too. And remember, some of these rainfall rates have been as high as 2-3 inches of rain per hour, which gives you an idea for how heavy the rain is coming down. That is more than enough to reduce visibility. We've also had a lot of hail reports coming out of some of these storms today too. In some cases, hailstones as large as 1.5 inches or bigger in diameter. And we had some impressive pictures we were showing you on our newscast earlier today at 5 before we we had to deviate for tornado coverage of the hailstones when they were originating up around Halifax County. So a very active day of weather, to say the least. But the good news is the tornado tendencies, at least for that cell across Hyde County and Washington and Tyrrell County, starting to lessen a little bit now. And as we begin to close in on 7:30, indeed it does look like that tornado warning is going to be allowed to expire on time. It is officially being replaced with a severe thunderstorm warning that remains in effect for the remainder of southern Tyrrell and northern Hyde County. And Holly, what was the expiration time on that new severe thunderstorm warning that they're going to replace it with? Do you have an expiration time on that?
Let's see.
I would imagine probably
Until about 8 o'clock, but they've also emphasized that they will keep the tornado watch until 11 o'clock tonight.
And that's why. So remember, tornado watch still in effect. So even if you're watching us from places that are not seeing thunderstorms right now, it would not be impossible for new activity to develop. The atmosphere is still kind of primed and charged at the moment. So we will be monitoring all of our channels as we move deeper into the night. If any additional tornado warnings are issued, we will let you know. But since we now have an expiration of that tornado warning, we will return you to your regularly scheduled programming.